Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be creating this very dashboard on your screen. In the previous video, we did create this very one and as well this one from the same healthcare provider dataset. So today our focus is going to be mainly on this very one. And what we're going to cover today is this. We want to look at the total numbers of patients that were admitted and how many days they spent on admission. So we're going to be looking at the total outpatients, and as well, we're going to be creating a slicer that we're going to use to filter our dashboard. And this slicer here is very dynamic and interactive and beautiful. So I'm going to show you how to create it with a tooltip that when you hover over it, before you even click to filter your dashboard, you have more information about the item inside the slicer. And next is a line chart. This particular line chart is powered by two different parameters or field parameters, measures and dimension. You can switch the measures from month to quarter to weekday and to year and as well to week type. And you can switch to different measures and the same chart would contain all of this. So next is the departmental view. So it could be based on whatever is being selected from this slicer. My favorite part of this particular whole dashboard is this particular half donut chart right here, which I'm going to show you how to create, and it's being powered by whatever comes out of this particular slicer. As you can see, it's showing the emergency and non-emergency visits. So I told you it depends on what is being selected from here, and I'm going to show you how to have everything created from the dark version to the light version. If you're ready to create with me, let's go to my PC. To get started, we have a blank canvas here. There is nothing on it. So I'm going to click on my line chart here and expand it to see what I'm doing. So inside the line chart here, I am going to take my month to the x-axis, right? So I'll make a search of what? Make a search of total visit. I am going to drag that into the y-axis. So this is going to give us something like this. Here is the trend on a monthly basis. So what if we want to actually create everything in a single chart? So you might be tempted to do something like this by clicking over here now. So the x-axis contains the categorical value. So if I drag in my quarter, drag in my weekday, and drag in my year right here, so it makes my chart to be very busy. So in order to control it now, let me just give you this view. In order to control this, I can decide to actually use drill up and drill down to control what I really see right now individually. So this looks fine, but not everyone that will be cool with this. So for that, let us bring in what I call parameter. You get it. So I'm going to take this off. So quickly, I will come over to modeling here. I'm going to go over to new parameter, then I'll create a fields parameter. So with the fields parameter, the first thing I want to actually control is what I see on the x-axis. So over here, I'm going to say switch. I think I'm going to name this one change calendar. So over here, I'm going to come to where I have my date table right in. I'll push in the month. So I'm going to push in the quarter. I'm going to push in the quarter, then the weekday. Then I'll search for the year. So if you want to go with the week type, which is either weekday or weekend, you can actually pick the week type right here. So it makes it 5 that you have in it. So once you have done this, the next thing is for you to just go ahead and create. right here we have a slicer to control this, but right now it's not going to work because we do not have it integrated into this. So before we do that, let us look at what we have. So we have all of this. You can only just play around with it like this and switch between here. So we're going to deactivate all of this, and to do that is for me to take off this one, take off this one, take off this one, and finally take off this one. Or instead I can click over here, then go over to the new table we have in here, which is gonna be switch calendar. So we can search for that. So here is the change calendar, then pick this one. So here we go. As you can see now, we are seeing the weekdays. Let me quickly go over here and run you through it nicely. So it's gonna be x-axis. Okay, you can see it's giving me weekday and weekend. If I pick the year, so it switches to the year, this is what you have now. So this is not all, this is just one part of it. So we want to switch between 3 different measures. So over here, let me take you into the measure area. So total. For total visit, we have this measure for calculating the total visit, counting the rows in our transactional table or visit table. So the next one we want right now is admission. So I can just search for admission. So here we have people who were admitted. Then the next thing is the outpatient, which is people who actually came into the hospital and left the same day. So here we have the outpatient, and this is exactly the number of outpatients right here. So we're going to need this particular couple of measures inside one slicer. To do that now, we click over here, we go to new parameter, we click on field, and over here we are going to actually call this one, that is a change measures. So let me use line. So it's not really cool, but you can do whatever you like that you can remember. You can follow my lead now, and later, after all, if you're trying to integrate this on your own project, you can do whatever you like right here. But for you to actually be on the same page with me, doing this will be very cool. So I'm going to search for total. So with my total right now, I'm going to take my total visit, then total admitted. So if I scroll down a little bit, I'm going to take, this very one right here. Those are the 3 measures I want to actually pick from here. Then go ahead and click on this create. So over here we have our measures. So what I'm going to do right now is to click in this particular part, and you know what it is. Let's go to our y-axis and have it changed to change measure line chart. So we have to look for that. So right now we have multiple lines, which is line for total visit, admitted, and outpatient. So all we have to do is to make sure we click on switch. So can you see it now? So we can switch between these measures right here. So switch between these particular dimensions. We have in here to control the measure, we have visible right away. So this is how to actually switch between measures and as well switch between categorical values or dimension. So it's as simple as this. So the most important one now is this one. We need to remember this one. But let us go to the the table view and take a look at what we have right here. So right here we have this particular table that has 3 columns. If I click on this now, it gives me this, view of our DAX. So this DAX was generated automatically for us. We can write it, but there is no need to do that once, the system can do that for us. So 0 is used to control total visit, 1 is used to control total admitted, and 2 is for total outpatient. So those numbers are very important. We need to remember them. So you can change these particular names right here, but you can never change any of these because they are actually the major measure. So those numbers can be changed. If you want 0 to be attributed to total admitted, you can do that. It's not going to spoil anything. So it's going to be okay. But for now, I am not going to do any of that. I just want to make you understand how this place looks. So for the time being, we are done with this particular visual right here that shows our trend on a monthly basis, quarterly, weekly, and even yearly down to the week types. So we're able to switch between measures. Let us see what is next. To create the half chart you have seen, we need to integrate this particular slicer into it. So before we come back to this slicer, let's quickly look at this table. So on the table view, click on your visits. So we are inside the visits table right now. Scroll to where you have emergency visit and actually click a drop down. You're going to have no and yes. So if there is an emergency visit, it will be yes. If there is no emergency visit, it will be no. We are going to use this. But to me, this is not the proper way of naming this. So, and it's giving me emergency visit. What if we use visit type? So how do we correct that? Let's head to Power Query. So we are right here in Power Query. I'm going to scroll until I see that particular no and yes. So which is this very one right here. So I'm going to right click, and the very first thing I'm going to do is to go over here to replace value. So make sure when doing this, your data type is on text, otherwise it wouldn't work. So replace value now. So I'm going to say for anywhere you find no, that means it is non-emergency. So non-emergency. So I'm just going to go ahead and, so as you can see, it has replaced it. So we're going to do it one more time. Right click and you go over to replace value. So for anywhere you see years, remember this is case sensitive. When doing this, don't use a lowercase for your years all through. Make sure you look at how it is being written. So here is an emergency. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So here we go. We have this. So I told you about the header we have right on it. I'm not really cool with this. I can double click on this particular pattern. I'm going to say visit type, then hit my enter key. That gives me something like this. So I think I can better work with this than the previous one. Okay, once I'm done, I'll click on close and apply. So it should have this particular place updated for me once it is done loading. Just 5,000 rows. 100%. So it does. So now that we have gotten that, put together, then over here, we want to create a particular measure that will give us the percentage of only emergency and non-emergency from the list of the total visit we have here. The same thing to total admitted and total outpatient. And this would only happen when there is switch. So when there is switch to total admitted, we want to see percentages peculiar to either emergency or non-emergency. That is what we only want. All right, so how do we create this? Right here I have percentage of non-emergency. So to have this created is very simple. We can actually create a variable, and inside this variable I'm going to call it total visit equals, okay, what are we going to do with this? We want to store the total visit that is only peculiar to non-emergency, which is very simple. It is something you had been doing before. by using the calculate function. Then you bring in the total visit in here, and you only take off where we have a visit type, which we just created, right? This very one here, to be equals to what? To be equals to non-emergency. So make sure your spellings are very correct. It's very, very important. So we have gotten this right now. So once we have done this, remember we have 3 measures inside here, right? So to avoid repetition, writing this over and over again, you can just go ahead and copy this away from here. Then you actually step down and you paste this one here. So to step down, you know what it is? You have to click on Shift and hit your Enter key like twice. Then your backspace will take you to this particular line. Then you paste. So we have this pasted 3 times, right? Now this very one is named total, visits. We're gonna name this one here admitted. So admitted. So once that has been named admitted, we're going to change the measure from this particular total to admitted. Can you see it now? Then leave this one the way it is. Then this one is going to be named outpatient. So we do the same thing to change this very one right here as well. Okay, now we have something like this. Can you see it? Okay, this is not in any way going to help us to do anything, or it wouldn't make sense right now. So we need to actually start switching between them. So how do we actually do this with ease? So first of all, we have to switch between our measures. And to switch between our measures, what we are going to use is this particular, change measure line chart right here. If you remembered the numbers I showed you that has to do with 0, 1, and 2 attributed to a particular, measure, let's see how to use it. So over here, I'm going to do variable again. Inside this variable, I'm going to call it switch measures. Okay, so to switch these particular measures right now, we are going to use a function that is very simple to use. It could be if, it could be switch, but I'm going to go with switch to avoid repetition of nested if. So I'm going to do switch. So you're going to do this when it is true. So my comma here, and over here I'm going to say, okay, now I want to check from outside. When I say from outside, I'm talking about this very one right here. I want to check what is being selected, and currently what is being selected is total admission. So for it to be on the safer side, let me quickly show you something again. I can freeze this by doing this and backspace, like backslash rather, your control and backslash to put it in a comment. So let's go back to this particular change measure here. So let's do this part, change measure line chart. So over here, we have this table and it's powered by this particular codes we have right here. Total visit is powered by 0, total admitted is powered by 1, and outpatient is by 2. This is something very important. And the important thing is when trying to call any of them, you have to bring together with the name of the table. So now that you've known what I'm talking about, let us quickly do it again. So we are here. So select all of this and control the backslash rather. So I can just go ahead and zoom closely for you to see what I'm doing. Okay, now that we've done that, we want to check we can use selected value. So for the selected value now, what are we going to select or check? So we're going to say change this. So if you look at it, I am using the one that says order. Order means the number. The one that has the number is the one that has order. So once you have done this, we can go ahead and have it closed right here. So once we close it, I'm going to say if it is equal to 0, that means what is being selected is actually, total visit. So we do give us what? Give us the measure called total visit. So total visit here. Then otherwise, we do the same thing again. Selected value here again. So change, you come over here and select this very one. Make sure it has order. The order means how they are being, ranked. So we close and ask if this is equal to 1. That means this one will be total admission. Total admission. Then we do this again. So make sure whatever you select, let me just do this. So whatever you select right now is what you have inside here. You understand? So I think admitted is what is there. So I'm going to select to admitted. Let's do this. Let's use that same measure. So we go with this very one. Then finally, the last one, we do not need to define if it is selected or not. So we know for sure if this one is not selected and this one is not selected, definitely something else will be selected. So for that, what we're going to do is just to actually say, okay, it's going to be comma, and we go with total outpatients. And we do this. So once we have done this, you might want to try to see what it is that this will give to you. So all we have to do is to do return. So under the return, you can do underscore, and you actually use the switch measure and hit your enter key. All right, so let's check it out and see what it is that we have. Right away, what we're going to see is not going to be a percentage. So instead, I think, let me just quickly do, okay, what we're going to see is not going to be a percentage. Instead, it's going to be a value that's peculiar to only non-emergency based on whatever measure that is being selected, right? So we have this right here. I want to bring something here. So let us bring total visits. So let me create this. Let me use this kind of card here. So let's go with outpatients, then admitted here. So for you to understand what it is that we are trying to get into, so I'm going to put it at 20. So now we can see these particular numbers on my screen. So whenever we select what is peculiar to what is here, it's going to give us the same number that matches one of those three measures. So now this particular total admitted is what is being selected, right? So look at it, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2. So let's just go to visit. So visit gives us this particular number. Then this is giving us this very number here. Exactly. So it might not look very good right now, but let us add one measure. You will now see why we are doing this. So I think, sorry, not one measure, one variable inside our measure. So I'm going to cancel out this very one from here, then go to this. So we have switched between different measures right now. The next thing we have to switch between is actually, variables. The variables we have actually created previously, and which is those variables right here, 1, 2, and 3. So it's very easy. Even though if we are not looking at it, we can switch between them. So we type in that variable here, underscore. So this one will be switch variable. So I can use var. So switch variable equals. So to switch variable now is almost the same techniques. So we're going to check, before we switch any variable, we want to check what is being selected from outside, which is going to be the same switch, only when it is true. So comma, and over here we use selected value. So we quickly scroll to where we have this that has the order. So we have to close and say when it is equals to 0, then what is selected? If it is equal to 0, then we're going to select a variable instead of a measure from outside. This variable is what we've created. 0 is attributed to total visit. That was why we named it and make it correspond to what we have here. Then it will be very easy for us to remember. Then comma. So we do this again. Selected value again. So selected value, we're going to do change and select this one with order. So when it is equal to 1, sorry, we have to close this first. So if it is equal to 1, then comma, that means we are going for admitted. So underscore to go for our admitted, one. So over here, the last one, we don't need to find if something is selected or whatsoever. We select outpatient and we go ahead and have this closed. So once we have done this, we want to show the results, so we can do return. And under the return here, we can return our switch, which is the last one, switch variable. So if I hit my enter key, the result we're going to see right now should be different from what we saw before. Let's find out. So can you see it now? This time around, I selected total outpatient. It's giving me a different number compared to what we have here. That was because the variable that controls the outpatient had already removed where we have non-emergency, you understand, from the whole of this number right here. Can you see? The number is 3768. This one is 2299. So if I go to admitted right now, the same story. Can you see? The number changes. If I go to visit, which is 5,000, it's now 3,071. You can see what I'm talking about. Okay, we have done this right now. I know this is an epic, part of our video. If you can pay attention to watch this, it will definitely help you to come up with an idea to create something yourself. Okay, let's see what is next. The next thing right now is to make sure we switch between these measures I have created to, between these variables I've created to create our dynamic, percentages. So which is very simple. Let's go ahead and do it. So over here, when next we come back there, we should be seeing percentages, not values any longer. So we scroll down. It is time for we to create, our percentages. This time around, there is no need to use anything above the measures below. So we have used them. So there is no need to use them again. This time around, we're going to be using this very one and this very one. And to do that, we can do it under the return we have right here. So under the return, we're going to use the if function to say if. So the if now is going to check if this particular change variable or switch variable is actually less than, which is this underscore here, switch variable. If it is less than underscore switch measure, then we want you to perform calculation for us, and this particular calculation should be creating a percentage around it. So which is going to be this. We'll go to the next line. We use a divide function. So the divide function will now divide underscore switch variable, or should have been change variable rather. So change variable, but we are using switch. So we can use switch variable by what? By the switch measures. So if there is division by 0, we want to handle it. So we put 0 here. We go ahead and close this, right? So now this is if the result is true. What if the result is false? Now it has switched to false. What do you want? So we do it the other way around. So we're going to use the divide function again. Divide. So we'll divide the underscore switch measures by underscore switch variable. So we do 0 and we close, and finally we close for our if. So if you look at it now, what we have here is not well formatted. So what I'm going to do now is to actually come over here and highlight all of this. My tab key, we move them, and you can see I have it proper formatting right now. This looks better. Okay, with this I believe we should have what we want 100%. If I hit my enter key, before I leave here, I am going to format this into a percentage, and what we should be seeing is a percentage. So let's do this. Right, let's do it. So can you see we have 60% attributed to people who came that were non-emergency cases or whatsoever. So let's go to admitted. Under people who were admitted, those ones that are not very emergency is actually 63%. And if we click over here, this is what we have attributed to those people. Okay, this particular result is going to be tallied together. Later, after all, let us create the second one. The second one wouldn't take us much time. All we have to do is to recycle through this particular variable we have, or measures we have right here. So now we are going to copy and Ctrl+C to copy. We create a new measure. It's something very simple. All we need to do right now is just to make some few changes and we are done. We don't have to write anything from the scratch. So now I am going to paste this in. The first change I'm going to make is this. Instead of none, I will just use emergency. I'll take off this very one from here, right? So what should I do instead? I can highlight this particular part. Once highlighted, I'll do Ctrl+Shift+L. Ctrl+Shift+L does not do that for me. No problem. Let's come over here. So Ctrl+Shift+L, Ctrl+Shift+L. Now you can see it highlights everywhere I have non-emergency. So what I'm going to use right now is to use emergency. So can you see? So you must make sure that this particular emergency is the way it is inside your data, like in the column where it is being found. It is like this. So it's actually emergency, so which I presume is correct. So if it's correct, we're going to have the right numbers. So here we go. We scroll down, we scroll all the way down to check if there is anything we need to change. I think right away there is nothing to change again. We are done 100%. We just make one single touch and every change has happened. So if I hit my enter key, we should have a new measure for emergency. Let's go ahead and take a look at it by converting this into a percentage. So now we're going to come over here and pick this. So this one has, let's take off this one from here. No, I'm going to take off the 0. I'll take off the 2 and put 0 right there. So if you do something like this and you add this to this, it gives you less than 100% or above 100%, just know that something is wrong somewhere. So the two adding together will give you 100%. And this is what it is. Irrespective of which particular one we selected from here, this is what we have. So can you see this right now? It is very simple. Very, very simple. So what is next? Now we have those two here. In order to create the kind of chart we have seen, there is something we need to perform again. It's just one straight line of code, copy and paste, and just make that particular one change, and that is all. So we just have to go ahead and new measure. Okay, over here now, let me call this one percentage that is let me use remain, or R for something that is left, remained the remainder of my non-emergency. So I'm going to put non-emergency here. So it's going to be equals. So we're going to take off 100% from what we have on non-emergency. To do that, we cannot use this as 100%. Already it's giving us an error. So we're going to use the decimal type of it. So 1.0 means 100%. We subtract what? We subtract our percentage of emergency from it, emergency visit, or non-emergency rather, non-emergency visit from it. That is what we are going to do. Percentage of non-emergency. So now that we have done this, we just go ahead and hit our enter key. So this one is optional. If you want to convert it to a percentage, you can do that. If you don't want it, you can actually leave it the way it is, because we're not even going to show the percentages. So it's not really important for me to show the percentage formatting or whatever. So we copy and we create a new one. So now we paste. So we take off this particular part. So we take off this very part. So this is what we want. So if I hit my enter key, it will give me what I want. So now we step out. Those ones are useful. We can keep them somewhere around here for the time being. So the next thing now is for we to create our chart. So the chart we're going to create is this very chart right here. So quickly, I'm going to bring in my percentage of what? Let me just make it big. So percentage of emergency, and the remainder of the percentage of emergency should be this very one right here. So it gives us something like this. So if we go over to this formatting here, and we click on slices, so here we have the one that we want to use. So we can give the color we want to use to identify it. For the time being, I'm going to choose a color for it. Later, after all, we can change it. Then this is the blank area. For the blank area now, let me make it blend with this particular background here. So white. I select white. It gives me this particular half chart right here. Then what I'm going to do next is for me to turn off the data label, the legend, and this. So I don't want somebody to hover over it and see this tooltip right here. I don't want tooltip to be attributed to this. So for that, to get it done, I'll go over to properties and I'll turn off the tooltip I have right here. So if I hover over it now, there is no tooltip. All I see is just a chart. Can you see this right now? I can just keep this one around here. Then to create the second one is very simple. Click on this again, drag it over here, expand it. And over here, we are going to do this, right? So we open the slices here. This is the one we want to, I think we are supposed to be using non-emergency. Okay, now let's go ahead and take off this one. So we are doing for non-emergency. We should be seeing non-emergency all through. So now the one that we want to actually turn to white background now is this one, and this one should be the right one to be used. So let's go with something like this for the time being. So quickly, we just have to turn off the legend, the title, and as well the data label, go to properties and turn off this very one here. This is what it is. So can you see? If we could merge them together right now, or we could actually create them the same size, they will actually cover themselves because it's going to give you 100%. This is how we got to what you have seen created. So now we have just done justification to this. What is left right now is to make this one a bit smaller to fit into where it is going to be. So we can just use 20. So we need to take off this. So it's going to be in the middle like this. So this is how we got this kind of chart created. So it's a long video, but it gives you exactly what you need to know. Go ahead and click on your visits table. We are actually on the visits table right now. So if you scroll to the far left-hand corner, you're going to see the visited date for every single patient. And if you scroll a bit to this particular side, you are going to see admitted date for people who were admitted. And what you can see physically right now is those ones that are blank, which means they are not admitted. So if I actually click on the drop down, you can see we have some couple of dates for people who were admitted. So let's see what we're going to do. So I'm going to right click now and create a new column. This particular new column is going to help me to create the length of stay for every person that were admitted in the hospital. So I'm going to call this one length of stay. So it's going to be equals. So quickly we can use a variable to do this to make it very easy for ourselves. So variable admission days is going to be equals. So what I'm going to use now would be date div. So date div would do this for me. So with date div now, what I will do is to actually take my admission date, or admitted date rather, over here. So we'll find the difference from this particular, I think visit, I think we have admitted date. Oh, we have another date called discharged. Yeah. Let's assume the discharge date. Discharge date here. So those people were admitted and they were discharged. And what we want to calculate is the number of days. So we're going to use this. So we put comma, we put day. We can put our day over here to make sure we format it nicely. Then we'll go ahead and close this. So once we have done this now, if I should actually go ahead and return this, what we're going to see is just nothing but some couple of numbers. So if I hit my enter key, I should be seeing numbers. So initially, those ones will be blank. When I click on it, so we will see. Let's go back to here. So we can now see people who spend 1 day, the maximum is 9 days. So we want to create groups between them. So to do that is very simple. So all we have to do, before returning this, we are going to use the switch function. So let us put this on a variable again. So variable underscore group days. So to group this now, we can use the same switch we used in the previous video. So I believe you must have known how to use this by now. So we're going to switch the previous variable and say if the previous variable is equal to 1, that means this person spent just 1 day in the hospital. So it's going to be just 1 day, right? Then underscore admission days again. So if it is equal to, okay, let's do less than equal to, I'm going to do 4. Then that means this person spent between 2 to 4 days, right? Then again, admission days, if it is actually less than equal to 7, then that means this particular person spent 5 to 7 days. So 5 to 7 days. So we are doing otherwise now. We can use true again, then comma. So we want to categorize the remaining persons under 8 days plus. So we close and we hit our enter key right here. So you might be thinking like, why did you not actually add everything together? Or just put it on everything under, oh, sorry, I mistakenly deleted it. So why don't you put everything under return and return everything at once? So I'm going to show you why. So let us return this one first. Return, and we are returning the groups. So if we return the groups, you can see previously those places here, those rows do not have anything. Now they have 2 to 4 days. So that was because they are blank. So blank is being interpreted as number. So for that, if I just collapse this now, it will have 1 day, 2 to 4 days, 5 to 7 days, and 8 days plus. So which means everybody were admitted, and it's not everyone that got admitted. Let's some kind of fix it. So what we are going to do now, we can find out if there is blank, then do a particular thing, otherwise do this for me. Let's do that. So under return now, we're going to return it. So under the return, we're going to use the if function to say if the admission day, which is this. Previously, when we did it, this evaluated blanks in some rows to those people that were not admitted. So we're going to check now if that exists truly. So we're going to do underscore admission days. So if it is equals to blank, use blank like this, then what we want is to see nothing but the same blank, show nothing. Otherwise, then go ahead and display the group days we have right here. So we can close this and hit our enter key, and that will clear off for us everywhere we have spill of. Can you see it now? So if I now drop this down, we're going to have this particular blank right here because those people were not admitted. So we are only doing this for people who were admitted. Can you see it right now? So this is how you can actually create this, and it's very important for you to have this created because we're going to be needing this in our next visualization. So now, as you can see, after adding that column, we have a problem, but it's nothing. We can fix it. If you look at this particular total outpatient here, is giving us blank, and trying to change to this measure, nothing happens to either of those particular charts and these particular percentages right here. So if I click over total outpatient here, I see blanks. So what seems to be the problem? Let's go back to our column. So in this particular column, which is the column we added, length of stay. So the mistake we made was this particular part. Remember, whenever I use double quotes, in the middle of double quotes is a delimiter. So which means we purposely added, some kind of a space, which is a text, which is not text to it. So what we can do right now is to make sure we remove that and make sure it's being closed. Or to start from the scratch, double quotes twice without any space, hit the enter key, and this will definitely solve the problem for us. Let us go ahead and check. So as you can see, it has been fixed. This is how to fix this very simple problem. Okay, we don't actually need this particular one here for now. I'm going to remove it. So for that, we're going to create the chart we are going to use, which is this very chart here. So with this chart here, on the x-axis, what I want to be there should be my new chart or my new column. So length of stay, the group one, this is it. So it wouldn't show up now until I bring in what I want. So what I want to show now is the total visits. Oh, sorry, not total visit. Instead, we are trying to bring in patients, total patients. So we bring in total patients in. So length of stay, then total patients is not coming in. Where could that go? So let's go over here. So here we go. sometimes that error will just occur. Now, as you can see, we have it right here, but there is a little problem that we need to quickly solve right now. So if you look at it, we have blank around it. How do we do away with this particular blank we have, here? This very blank needs to be taken away. This blank is taking far huge space. So we don't want that. To quickly get that off right now, we just need to go over here and we click on this very part here and we shut this down. By selecting everything, we take off this. Now we have something like this. You can see this is what we have. So very simple and easy. So the next chart we're going to create right now, let me just take this one and keep it somewhere around here. That chart will be about total visit by department and the visit type, which is what we did create in Power Query. So we are going to right click and bring in the chart. So total visits. So quickly you can search for department over here. So we bring in our department. Again, visit type. So then what we're going to do is to actually use this particular clustered column chart right here. So with the clustered column chart, we can bring this in to it. Oh, that has switched. So get it back in again. So let us expand this and see what it is that we have. Okay. It's not giving us what we want. We can do it again. So let's just remove this and quickly select the chart we want to use. This is the chart we want to use right here. So now we have everything we want. So sometimes it misbehave like that. So we have everything we want. So on our x-axis right now, we want to put department, and on the y-axis our measure, and the legend will take our visit type. So I can drag my visit type to the legend area here. So now quickly we can search for department and drag our department into the x-axis right here. So for the y-axis, we want to put a measure into it. So we can search for total visits. Okay, can we make it this way? If I put in the total visit, it does not really spoil anything. It looks so beautiful, right? So this is nice, but this is some kind of mere static. Why don't we use the measure we are using right here for this? That will definitely work fine. This measure we are using right here, which is change measure. So what I'm going to do now is for me to click over here and go over to total visit and switch total visit to something different. So I'm going to go for change. So which is this one here? I am going to select this very one. So right now, whatever measure has been selected from here, it will reflect over here as well. So it says total admitted by department and visit type. If I select total visit by department and visit type as well, so the title is dynamic, and this is exactly what we want to see. So you can see I can just go ahead and make it this way, right? For the time being, we can just keep things organized roughly. There is no problem. So we need three single cards. So those ones, they're gonna be here because we're gonna be needing them in here. So I can Control C, Control V to paste this and bring this over here. So patient admitted is what I want to have right here. So you can click over here and just go ahead and bring admitted, total admitted in here. So Control V to paste it again. So we want to bring out patient here into a card. So here we need to bring in our total outpatient. And lastly, we want to bring in what is coming or what is actually generating this, which means the value coming from this particular slicer. So all I have to do is to make sure I paste a new one and drag it over here, and I will go ahead and make sure I find it, which is this very one here. So now it's not a card. We have to make sure we switch it into a card. So we want to use a single card. No, we need a single card. So we can switch it again to make sure we get the card we want to use. Okay, fine, we have it. So it's very dynamic now. This is how it looks. Don't worry, whenever we are done creating the layout of our dashboard, you will now see where everything come to play. So right away, we are doing our rough work here. So what is next? It is time for we to create that particular, kind of slicer that you saw in my introductory part of the video. So now let us add a slicer to our dashboard. Before we do that, let me just take you over here. I'm going to search for this particular measure I have written before. It's called average score. So it's very simple. You can actually copy it. So what we have done here is actually create an average score for every single, providers. Like that is the score from our patients. So we average it, and we actually do some kind of concatenation right here. So you're going to see the end result, but all you need to know is that this is how the measure we have written for that looks like. Very simple. So let's quickly go down to our main business today is to create a very beautiful slicer, right? So I'm going to scroll down. Then over here, I have this slicer that has new, right? Which is the newer version, not the old one. So I can actually stretch this way. So after I might have done this, the next thing for me to do now is to go over to, let's go over here. So to provider, let me take you here first. So under provider here, as you can see, we are on the provider table, and it gives us this particular view of what is inside the table. So right here, we have images. Those are links that actually is connected to the cloud where the image is being hosted right in. In case you want to actually know how to do this, if you have some couple of images on your PC and you want to make a dashboard very dynamic, so you need to actually host it somewhere, and you don't need to have a hosting plan to do that. I'm going to show you. So I have a link under this particular video description that can actually help you to teach you how you can actually do everything without having to spend any money. It's 100% free. So you are going to generate images like this and have it included inside your data set, right? Okay, this is the table we're going to be using. Let's get back here. Now we are here. If I scroll all the way down here, I can see we have the name of the providers, right? So I bring in the name first. Okay, after the name is being actually, brought into the slicer, the next thing is for we to format how the slicer looks. So count how many items you have inside the slicer. It's just 5 persons, right? So let's go to layout. So under layout, we are going to change this particular, arrangement to, we're going to use this particular single row. And that is it, only 3 shows up. So we want to show the whole 5. We do this, and we put 5 right here, and the whole 5 items showed. All right, once we have done this, the next thing we have to do right now is to make sure we bring in the image that we want to use for it. So let's quickly collapse this and turn off the title. So here we have the images. So if I click on it right now and I scroll a little bit down, you can see we have a state. So the state we want to use to actually bring in our image should be the default state. So if you open it up right now, you have different states. Default, hover, press, and selected. We don't want to actually change it, so leave it at default. Next is for you to actually click over here and go to where you have the image URL or link right in, then scroll to get it. Click on it, and now here we go. So you have different ways to actually make the image to look the way you want. So you can actually use fit or fill, fit, and normal. So I'm going to leave it at this particular default state now, default image field or whatever, or fit now. So if I scroll, so it's time for we to bring in the average score for every single provider. So our rating into here. So how do we do this? It's very simple. So all you have to do is to click on this callout value. So once you have done that, you have to scroll all the way down until you see label. So you turn it on. So now we have this, collapse it and have it open, then you click on add data, right? So two things is what you can do. You can come over here and make a search, or you can actually click on it and go ahead and grab it. So I'm going to actually drag this into here, and this is what I have. So if I want to actually work around it to make sure it looks some kind of, bold a little bit, I can just increase the size to show you what it is. So later, after all, we can actually maintain how it looks. But for now, this is what we actually have as slicer. You can see this is it here. So we have this, and this is the first step we need to take. So do you know this particular slicer is very dynamic? Every single time it's been hovered on, a tooltip showed up. So how did we create that tooltip? It's very important. So we need to create that tooltip right now. To create the tooltip, what we need to do is to make sure we actually add a new page. So with this particular new page right here, our page needs to be some kind of formatted to actually meet what we want. So click over here to page information. And over here we have page 2, which is not a problem. That was because we have not named it. So if I want to name it now, I'm going to say, let's say provider. So here is it. I have named it now, and this one will be automatically named as well. So that is the name. So instead of me to use standard page, I wouldn't do that. I am going to actually change it to tooltip. So done, right? So we collapse and we leave that environment. So the next thing is for we to go to the canvas settings right here. Under canvas settings, we have tooltip being selected. That is okay. We don't want that. We want to customize how things look. So we are going to go to custom. And under custom, we're going to have this. This is the default one. So I want to change this to 450. So we want to do this by, let's do 300. Oh, 200 is going to be okay. 300 is much. So 200. So we have 200. It looks some kind of slim this way. So once you have done that, next thing is for you to actually click over here. Was it here? No. Canvas background. There, I want something to be changed. Okay, now it's here. So now you can look at it now, vertical alignment. So it's on top. So you can do on the middle. This doesn't really, change anything in the main page where you're going to use the tooltip, but sometimes it actually give you, some kind of good feel. All right, once we have done this, the next thing now is for me to actually have this collapse that I want to save and have this collapse as well. All right, so I'm going to scroll down here, and the first thing I'm going to take right now is the provider's name, which is this very one. And once I've gotten this here, I want to change this to a card. So I'll quickly change this to a card. So click over here, then use the card, which is the single card here. And that gives you something like this, okay? So with this now, we need to change the format. Like, how do we want to format it? This looks too huge. For the first time, I want to come over here now and turn off the category label, then come over here. And let's put this at 20. Okay, this looks beautiful. Okay, here we go. You can just stretch it to cover everywhere. So let me match the color to a particular color. Maybe we can change it later, but for the time being, I want to come to size and style. So after that, you scroll all the way down. You can see background here. So you click over here. So let us use this for the meantime. We're going to go with something like this, but I don't like this. I will go with something like this for now. Okay, we can change this later to match our main background in our dashboard. So after I might have done this, the next thing now is for we to actually use this particular, simple image right here. I got this one from this particular Get More Visual or the App Store, or App Stores rather. So if you want to get this, you have to sign into Power BI service account you have. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get this. It's very simple. Just do that. If you don't have an account, you have to watch a video about how to generate an email for your Power BI service using Novate Pro, which I have made. So if you can't find it, please let me know in the comment section. I'm going to share that to you personally. All right, so I have this right here. I can bring it in and take it up a little bit, then keep this way. And the next thing right now is to bring in the image. So here I am going to click on this. Okay, we have the first image showing up right here, which is not really bad at all. Then the next thing we want now is this. We want to show the age and nationality of this particular person right here. So to do that right now, what is the ideal way to get this done? So let us use a table to have this done. So I'm going to actually use table. So this particular table here will look okay. So once I've done that, I want to put the age, I want to put nationality right in here. And this is what I have. So, okay, with this now, what I want is we need to actually format this to make sure it fits right into what we are doing. So what is the first thing we should do? Let's go to here, collapse this. So let's go over to value. So on that value now, we want to put this at 12, increase it to 12. So that is the main inside things we have, 12. So like for the header, let's go for the header. We can do 11 for the header. Okay, not too bad. 11 is cool. And the font type we have for the is cool. So once I've done that, we can now some kind of make sure we have this cross. We stretch this way, right? So once you have done that, the next thing I'm going to do now is to scroll all the way down. So I can see where it says specific, a column. I'm going to select age. So once my age has been active, I want to choose align this way. Can you see that now? So it aligns this to this particular part. So once I've done that, it's only going to show one at a time. So I have to just do something like this. You get it now? Okay. I don't want to see this particular scroll right here. So as well, this very one. So let me test it out to see if this is going to be off for me if I actually bring it into my visual. So right now, at default, nothing happens. No single tooltip right here. So to turn this particular tooltip on, all I need to do is to click on this slicer, then go over to properties. And from there, I'm going to click on these tooltips. So you can see if I hover over this now, it's giving me the default tooltip, which is the items I have inside the slicer already. Then all I need to do is to come over here to auto, then go to provider tooltip. So if I now hover over it now, you can see we have this, and that scroll is not more there. So this is what it looks like hovering over this. Can you see it now? In case your own does not appear, that might be because you're not signed in into Power BI, service. So I got this particular, I think it was, this very one here. Let me take it back here. So this one we are using now is actually gotten from Power BI service that helps us to display the image, right? So for that, you might need to be online to actually have it, show up. So once we have done that, the next thing we have to do right now is that this one here, we want to give it color. So I want to click over here, make sure you select it. Now go to this particular part and scroll down. So we want to change this to black. So we come over here, we change this to the same black, right? So the text now should be on white. Let us put the text on white. The text should be on white. So we want to scroll back up. And now for the header, so we want to choose the text color to be on white with 10% darker. Then here we go with the black color. So that is good. So the next thing we have to do right now is to scroll all the way up and go to size and style and make sure you change the background here to black as well. Use the same black. Now it gives you something like this. Don't worry about the scroll. It's not going to be there. Okay. One thing we might want to take off now or change now is the divider. So if you want to use white for the divider, it's fine. let me show you what I'm talking about. So whenever I hover over this now, so you have a divider that is blue that divides the age and the number, the nationality and the Indian. So if you want to change that to white, you can actually do it. Let me show you how to do it. So I'll prefer using white. So what I'm going to do now is just to make sure I click on it here, is active. Then I go to grid and scroll down to border. So here is it. This is it here. So you can change it to something that looks like this. Okay, this is nice. The next thing now is for we to actually add patients, number of patients this particular doctor has actually attended to. So we have to go over here. So total patients here. So it's here into a card. We'll make it as small as we want. Adjust it to fit into what you want. So open it up. So we need to actually make sure it's not as huge as this. So let's go over to callouts. So instead of 40, we're going to show 30. This is cool. Then we want to turn off the category label. Instead, we're going to use title for it. So let's go with title. So title has been turned on. So what should we use for our title? So with the title, we're going to use starting. Then over here, I'm going to type in so something like that. So I want to push this in the middle, push it to the middle. So here we go. So make sure you bring this down a little bit. So that patient satisfaction score we have the other time has some kind of another version which I created that we can actually use for this very purpose. So let me show you that. So I'm going to cut off this one. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this. I'm going to drag this right here. So I think that one is actually this very one here. So if you look at it now, so here is it. So we have another one here. It's just almost the same thing with the previous one. It's just that we concatenate something different to this very one. It's very, very simple. You can do it. So just go ahead and copy what I've done here and use it exactly on your own. So once we are done with this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to actually go ahead and click over here, take off this very one, and now we can drag this into here. It gives us this, but too huge, we can't use this, right? So what I'm going to do now is to turn off the title. Then we need to actually change the size. So what size are we going to use? Let's go with 14. So we are going to go here. So let's go with 14. Perfectly done. So the next thing now is for we to go over to properties. Oh, sorry, to size and style. Then we want to change the background. For the time being, we're going to go with this one as well. So we can change it later after all. So this is all we have done under the tooltip right here. So the next thing now is for we to go here and verify what we have done if it showed up very well here. So by hovering over it, it gives us this very detail about this person. You can see. Can you see it now? This is what we have right here. Something very beautiful. So now we can some kind of, change this. So resize it and make sure it fits into here. Okay, with all this, the next thing we have to do right now is to make sure we some kind of arrange our chart. We have arranged all our charts. what is left right now is for we to actually use the right type of slicer we are using. So what I'm going to do is to make sure I click on this very one here and step down straight up to where I have the newer version. And here we go. So we have this converted to this type. So this one as well, we need to do the same thing over here. So from this type of slicer to this very type. So this is not looking good in any way. You can just go ahead and stretch it and have something like this. Then you can bring this down. So in case yours is different, all you have to do is to make sure the settings here should be under layout. You should have a single row, and you can have 3 items, 4 items, depends on how many items you have inside your slicer, right? So I have 3. If I change it to 2 now, you can see what's going to happen when I use 2. So 2 will look like this. It will only show 2 and it will hide 3 or the third one. So we have to make sure we show everything. This is what you need to do. So once we are done with this, the next thing we have to do right now is to take a screenshot of the whole, dashboard. So to do that now is very simple. You can use Snippet tool on your Windows, or you can actually do Windows key, Shift, hold it down, and the S key. This will definitely help you to get the screenshot. So I'm going to take out this part. Here we go. Something like this is okay. Now we have actually gotten this saved inside our clipboard. We do not need to save this anywhere on our PC or in any folder. So we can now use this inside PowerPoint. So open your PowerPoint and let us fire on. So we have a blank slate here inside PowerPoint. The next thing for me to do now is to change the color of this very background right now. To do that, all I have to do is to actually right click and go over to format background here. So once I click on that, I'm going to have this up, which you can actually move anywhere you like, but I'm going to leave it here. But if you want to move it, it's very simple. You can move it anywhere you like. You can keep it right here. So now this is what I'm going to use. I want to use this very dark color here. This is it. So once I've gotten this dark color used, I will come over here and get this very shape. So drag it down and resize it. So we want to make sure it's some kind of cover to an extent here. So don't worry, we're going to shift things around. So we want to keep some little space up here. It's very important. So to justify the space between here and here, all you have to do is to go all the way to shape format. Shape format. Align. We actually align center. Then we need a space at the top, at the bottom here, just to make sure you move it a little bit. Then the next thing is for we to change the color. So I'm going to come here now and pick this very color for it. So now I have to go to line, and I'm going to remove the line, drop the line from here. So once done, this is what we have right now. So for now, it's not making any sense yet, but don't worry, it will make sense. When I just go Ctrl V, I have this dropped in here, and I'm going to resize this and make a full screen of it. So already this particular space we have here is what we have right here. So Ctrl Z will return it back. So once we have gotten this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to make sure I go to my insert, then shapes, and I'm going to take this same one. So I want to target this particular area, and here we go. All right, if you want to see what is going behind it, you can just go ahead and click over here, then reduce the transparency. Then you can see what is behind it. So now we have this. The next thing I'm going to do now is just for me to go ahead and Ctrl D to duplicate it. And the duplicate one is going to come over here. Then I'm going to reduce this to this level with this kind of space. So Ctrl D again, I'm going to bring this one over here. Very important, right? Okay, once I've done this, the next thing is for me to Ctrl D again and keep this at this particular part. So we Ctrl D, and over here I am going to some kind of bring this. Just take your time and make this happen. Here we go. So Ctrl D, move this in. So make sure it covers to this particular end like this. And here you go, something like this. And finally, this is what we're going to do. Bring this over here and make sure you cover it up. Then you bring this down. All right, the next thing we're going to do right now is that we are going to come over to this particular part and bring up a particular shape from here. What shape could we use? Let's go with this particular, rounded corners, rectangle. I don't know. Here we go. So now all I need to do is to make sure I make it this way. I'm going to keep this over here. Just make it a bit smaller. Okay, once you have done this, the next thing I'm going to do now is that I want this part here not to be curvy. So the only trick you can use on this now is to get this. Let us duplicate it and bring it over here. Then cover it to this edge. Right now, if I go ahead and take off the transparency, it will look like this. But we have to make sure we resize it until we have the perfect one. The very easiest way to get this done is just to make sure we get this duplicated. Then we take off the rounded corner. We have something like this. We can just go ahead and make a resize. Then it can give us a perfect match of what we want. So here we go. All right. So we're going to hold two of them and go over here and take off the line. We don't want any line for it. So for now, this is what we want to see. I'm just going to make the space here to be a bit, yeah, sure. So we want to bring this in. Just take your time to have this format done. Here you go. Okay. I might not have the perfect one now because I used to spend lots of time doing this formatting on my own. But this time around, what I'm going to do is just to get off this particular, screenshot we brought in, delete it this time around. So I'm going to hold my Control key to make sure I select everything and return it back to normal. Then we have this. So with the selection, I am going to go over here to change the color. Go over here. Now we're doing the third one. The main background is this particular darker version is this one. This particular one here is this particular one. And now we use the third one. This is how it's going to look. And we take off this. I think, let me see. Maybe we should actually make a change of it. So what do we do? Because now, okay, now let's go with this very one. Better. So with this one now, I'm going to click on this one and instead change it to this one. Can you see? Here we go. Let me just go ahead and click on this one now. Then come over here. This. And click on this one. So now can you see it? This is what we have. So make sure you hold your Control key, move it until you can have the same thing over here. Then now, this is what we have. So where we have to fix things now is over here. We need to have a white, this is what you need to do. Just adjust things the way it should be. This is nice. So click on this and have this adjusted. All right. Okay, we are not done yet. The next thing I'm going to do right now is to make sure it's gonna be this one. Let's just try this one, duplicated, and I'm going to change it to a particular color. So we go over here let's go with this color. Nicely done. So if I just go ahead and have this, and here we go. I want to send this to back, or I can click on this one and bring this to front instead. If I have it to the front, you can now move this here. So you can have something like this. But the thing is this, I don't want something like this. Let us delete this now and come over here and find a different one that we can actually use. So let's go with, let's try this. Okay, this one would look perfect. I'm going to just make it this way. Now this way, we go over here. I'll pick this again. So once we have done that, we take off the outline. We bring it over here to make sure we resize it, and it's going to touch this one here. So we can actually extend it to this level as much as we like. Click on this one and send this particular one to the front. So while this one goes behind it, this is what we really want to have as a design. So the next thing I'm going to do now is just for me to click over here and duplicate this one, then come over here now and click on this. Let's go ahead and just do this. Then we'll have this over here. So play around with your shapes. It will give you much more edge over the design. So this is what we want. So once you have gotten this created, the next thing you have to do is to go over here to File, and you click on Export. You can choose either PNG, JPEG, or JPEG. It depends on the version you want. So you can just go ahead and save it using any file type you feel you're some kind of comfortable with. So now we're going to pick it up because I've saved it already. So we're going to pick it up and actually see how it will look on our Power BI dashboard. Over here, the next thing we have to do is to make sure we click this, and here we go. This is how it looks. Not that beautiful yet. So let me just quickly hold my Control key to select those ones that are of the same family. And we go over to here and change the color to this. All right, it's popping. Then the next thing again is for me to go over to callout value and make sure I have the color changed. Now this is actually taking its normal shape. So this one as well should be taken care of. If you look at the color here, is not really cool at all. So I want to see the color that kind of correlates to this one. So to do that now, we go to slices, and over here, we want to make sure the color we're going to choose for this white here corresponds to this color, because we don't want it to show at all. That will take us back here to copy this color code. Is very important. So what you need to do is to actually come over here and right click, then go over to format shape. So if you want to get the color code, you click on this one, more colors, and here you go with the hex code. In case if your version of PowerPoint doesn't have this hex code, you can use this particular 6464, which is the RGB. So now we have this, we can go back, and now that we're here, we click on this one, and let's do it again. We'll paste this in. Click over this one as well. So we are going to paste the same thing in. All right. So the next thing we have to take care of now should be this very one here. So for this one, I want to use this very color. So over here, I'm going to click on this one. I want to use a color that is some kind of just like this one, but not really this one. So which means what I'm going to do now is to some kind of mix my color myself. So to mix the color now is to come here and change a different variation of the color. So let's go with this. So a different version, something similar, but not exactly. So this way, right? So once we have done this now, this is actually for non-emergency. I'm going to quickly click on this very one now and go over to here. And here is non-emergency. I'm going to select this one. This is what I've used for non-emergency. And I'm going to select here, and for emergency, I want to make sure I match it with this very one here. So can you see it now? Because they are the same thing. If you look at it here, the legend is actually emergency and non-emergency. And this is the same thing that this particular chart is actually showing up. All right, with this, I want to match this particular text color with the color here. Then this same thing, here. All right, so as you can see, it's becoming something we really want to see. The next one here is the line chart, which I'm going to actually go ahead and actually make a change to. So over here on the line chart, I can decide to use this particular kind of line chart, or I can decide to change it to something different. Let's go to linear, and smooth line is what I've selected. So you can see even smooth line looks fine as well. All right, let's go over to where we have an area shade. So with the area shade, I have something like this. You can control the kind of area shade you have. So open it up, and here you go for the color. Don't change the color for something different. Use the default color. So you can see here, if you want to have something like this, or you can actually control how it is going to actually appear. So I love something like this. So you can actually change your color for the line over here, then change the color to match, something like this. Okay, with that one done, the next thing is for we to play around with our slicer here. Our slicer is not popping out at all. So let's see what we can do to make sure the slicer becomes something very much more beautiful. Okay, the very first thing I want to do on the slicer now is actually going to be on the main text over it. So I want to change it to this color, right? So the next thing again is for me to go over here and say for the selected, I want the selected as well to be on white, but something much more brighter. Okay, fine. So what if we have some kind of the selected one should have a fill? So that means we're going to go down over here. We have buttons. Under buttons now, we scroll down. At default, what we want to have on it, our default should be no fill. But for the selected one, we want to have fill for the selected one. So we actually go ahead and come over here. So come over here and see selected. So for the selected one, we want to actually have some kind of fill on it. And if you see, it's affecting every part of it. So what can we do to solve this particular problem? It's very simple. We have to go back here. So over here, we click on this particular part and we copy the same hex code we have used here for our color. So you can use 3838 all through for the RGB. Then we're back here now. So what I'm going to do now, I want to go all the way back here. So instead of me to say the state should be selected, I want to use default. So for the default one, I want to have border around it, and the border should actually be this color. That is it, number one. The next one is for me to have a fill for it. So the fill color should be this I've just copied right now. Now that will blend with the background so nobody can tell. So with that now, I can see I have the selected one already with the color that is kind of similar to my main color here. So which is not a problem for now. So the only problem I want to solve right there now is actually going to be me making sure the text on the selected one shows up very well. So that will take me to the colored value where I'm going to select this color and change it to something like this. This is what it is. So every single time I make a selection, it's going to actually look like this. But one thing is not clear. What about this color we have on hover? Do we really some kind of like it, or should we change it? If you want to change it, it's very simple. Come down here, and over here, I'm going to go over to this default and just say on hover. What I want is actually going to be this color. So when I hover over it, you can see what I have now. So with all this now, we don't have to do it again over and over again. Like, no, it's not going to work that way. It would be some kind of too much work. So let's go ahead and use the format painter to get the same thing for this. But unfortunately, it has changed this to something like this, which is not really cool at all. So it's very simple to fix this. I'm going to go over to layouts. So I'm going to use the row, and that is all. That's fixed the whole thing for me. So you can see this is looking much more beautiful than what it is before. Can you see it now? If I now click now, this is what you have. So if you want to change the on click, when you click, you can see the text some kind of vanished. That is not that. Text some kind of like blend with the color, and the text color we have is some kind of white on press. So if you want to change that now, maybe you might want to change the text, you just come over here to call out and you scroll down. Here we go on press. So we want to have the text on black. So when I press now, you can see this is what you have. Okay, quickly, let us just go ahead and change the color of this one. This, right? If you want to use this particular FX, you can actually make sure you come over to gradient, and over here you select your first choice of color, maybe this very one here, and the second one should be something like this. Or still, you can actually go ahead and use something like this. So let's go ahead and click on OK. So this gives you some kind of color separation, like the lower version of it here and the higher version. So for the legend, we don't need to keep the legend. So we need to make sure we go ahead and take off the legend. Turn off the legend totally. So over here, we need to actually make sure we go for the header, or the title rather, and make sure the title here has this. The same thing to this one. We go ahead and give it up to this one here. Okay. We do the same thing for this very one, and we get this done. Finally, the next part of it is going to be this very one here. So it's not much work, but you have to pay attention in case you have not done this before. This will definitely give you, some kind of knowledge on how to have this formatted. Let's go first of all with the background we have on it. So we are going to click over here to size and shape and style rather, and take off the background. That is good. All right, next is for we to make sure we actually identify which one is selected. So for the selected one now, we have this particular black, color for the selected one, and it's not making it look much more better. So what I'm going to do now is to scroll all the way down to this particular part called, what is that? Let's collapse everything first. Okay, let's go to button. So to the buttons here, we scroll down, and now we are on hover. Let's go to default. So for the default one, what we want to have as a color should be something like this. So at default, we want to have something that looks just like this, or if you want something a bit darker than that, you can go with this one, which is of no difference, right? So let's go with something like this. Okay, something like this looks great for the default one, but once we actually made this the default one, the text is not more readable, so we have to scroll back up again. And now that we are here, let's go to where we have the call out values. So make sure we change this one to the call out as well. Oh, sorry, to the default one as well. And we can now go ahead and change the color. So the next one we have to do is to scroll down to where we have the label right in. And for this one, we change it to this color, not as bright as the other one. Okay, now let us focus on this very one here that is actually selected. So first of all, for the selected one, we have to make sure we say this one here should be black. We want to use this black. Oh, sorry, I should have done this before. Let's go with this one. So we have to change this to selected. From default now to selected, then we focus on changing the selection. So for the selected, what I'm going to do is to make sure I change it to a black color like this. Don't worry if it doesn't blend with the color we have as background color. So we go over here and we choose to use this color. Okay, after that, let us quickly run down to our buttons. Then we click and go for the selected one. Now, this is the time to change the background. Here we go. I'm going to make sure I use something like this that matches what we have here as a design at the top. So this is already looking great, but something is not right. So what is not right here is that I have border around it. I want to take off the border. So to do that now, we scroll down again. So we find the border here, we turn it off. So the border is gone, but it is gone for the selected one. So we want the border to be gone for everything. So we choose the default one here and we turn off the border. So after that, there is nothing more. So if you look at it, it's looking cool, but the selected one is still some kind of like the unselected one. So what do? I think I need to make sure I work on my image. But if you look at it now on hover, the color we are seeing here is not really some kind of impressive. So okay, what if I do something like this, right? So let's do that. So that on hover should be under buttons. So we go straight up to buttons here, and over here, we change this one to hover. So we now fill this with this. So when I hover, I want to have something like this. All right, this is the main part where I love most. So playing around with the image that you have used here inside your slicer is the next thing. So let's go here and format the images that we have on it. So have the image collapsed. So here we go. We collapse these images. So once you have done that, go scroll down. And for the default one, I don't want it to be like this. I want to actually make sure it's some kind of desaturated. So if I try to do that and turn it to black and white, it affects even the selected one as well. If you ask me, I don't know why Microsoft did this way. So I can take it back. Before I can have access to do what I want now, I have to go to the state here and change it to selected. Then first of all, apply it to the selected one first. You can see the black and white is only affecting the selected one. Now return it to the default one. Then go back here and make sure you change it to default before you can actually apply this to it. So can you see it now? So the colored version of it is only going to be on the selected one. If I change this one to this now, you can see this one returns to black, and here we're having the right one. Okay, the next thing I want to do right now is to take it back to selected version of it and scroll a little bit down. For the blur, I want to apply blur. This blur will only apply on the selected one. I'm going to return it back, then quickly go back and now selected the default. We're going to apply the blur, but not really much blur, just a little blur. So now something like this. So we want the selected one to be standout. That was why we did this. It's very simple. Can you see it now? This is what you can do. Okay, there is something I didn't show you. Let me go ahead and show you what it is. So over here, we were supposed to actually add a circle and add some kind of icon inside it, which I never showed you. So on the previous one we have done here is this. So it's very simple. You can get the icon from flaticon.com and have it used, or you can use the icon you have here. So this is the previous one. If you have been following the videos, so we have done all of this. It's something very simple that anyone can actually create. Okay. We have what we want just like this. The next thing we have to do right now is to make sure we actually have the dashboard name on this one. So if I go to the previous dashboard we have created, I can actually copy the dashboard name from here and use it over the present one. So right here. So it's something very simple that you can create. So go ahead and actually format your dashboard to look exactly like this. And the navigation is something very easy. We have been doing it on this particular channel, and I believe you can do it. In case there is any resources you want me to actually share with you, please let me know everything in the comment section. And I believe this will definitely help you to know how to actually create a very beautiful dashboard just like this. So keep on creating. See you in my next videos.